Hey, how you doing? This is Tom, and this is Tom's Radio Room Show. And I'm waiting for Scott to come on, and he's going to talk about a Cadillac of a ICOM receiver and talk about the new one that he has on order. So we're standing by waiting for Scott. Let's see here. Trying to set up my monitor over here so that I can watch the chat room. It's coming up slowly. Okay, there is the chat room. I'll make sure it's working. Type in hello. Okay, there it's working. And there's Scott. Okay, I'm going to let Scott introduce himself, and we're going to switch over to his screen. And there's his computer. It's almost it's like a computer, but there's his receiver. And I'm gonna let Scott tell us about this one and how long you've had this one.
Oh,
Scott,
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
So I've introduced you just briefly. If you'll tell us a little more about yourself, where you're generally located, and what we're looking at on the screen right now. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I live in an area of Toronto that we like to call sunny Etobicoke, down by the lake. Right now it's 1 degree Celsius. And I've been retired now coming up to 3 years in June. I was a technician at the local transit in their control center, taking care of all the radios and computers and everything. So it's lots of fun. And now I'm having fun doing this, playing with my radios.
So which model is this one?
The one you're looking at there is the ICOM R-9500 I've had for almost 10 years now.
Wow, I didn't realize it's been 10 years since those have come on the market. And what's the frequency range it can receive?
This one does, I think, 5 kilohertz to 3.33 gigahertz.
Wow.
With no gaps.
Unbelievable. So you want to turn it on and show us?
Okay, here, we'll power it up.
Okay.
We'll boot it up. Computer.
Now, this is not computer controlled at all, right?
Well, you can control it externally.
Oh, okay.
By a serial link, just like any modern radio, right? But
like all the ICOMs.
Yeah, but it's basically a computerized radio. It's an SDR. Everything from the IF onwards is all digital, and then converted back to analog for when it comes out the speaker. But other than that, it's basically a computerized radio, like any modern radio, but all digital signal processing.
How big is that screen?
I don't know. There's my hand. I think it's about 6 or 7 inches, maybe. I'm not sure the size of it.
Because I think the new one's like 4.2 or something like that.
Yeah, I think the new one's just slightly smaller, but then it's quite a bit smaller radio. This radio weighs, I think, 45 pounds.
Wow.
It's a real monster. I mean, it's got these handles are an option. Like it doesn't come with those handles on. You got to put them on the ends, and you really need those just to pick it up because it is just so heavy. Like it hasn't moved since I bought it and put it here on the table. It hasn't moved because it's just so big and heavy that there's no reason to put it anywhere else. You know, it's just you need a big heavy table to put it on.
Okay, can you show us some of the controls?
Okay, well, it's got some pretty cool stuff. Like it's got this auto tune that's like an automatic frequency control. But in AM, for example, you tune off the station a little ways, and you hit auto tune, and it'll tune it right back in. So if you're tuning around and you come to another channel, like there's WWV, and you just hit the button and It'll tune it right in. But that also works on sideband as well.
Wow.
Now, I'm not just sure how it does that. It uses the DSP to do that. Let's go up to we can see if we can find some sideband. Maybe a little bit early for. Not sure where we're going to find some at this time of day. Maybe put it in sideband mode here. Okay, I think that should be lower sideband down there, I think.
Yes.
Okay, let's just see if the auto-tune can tune that. Gotta wait till he starts talking again. Seems to be taking it a little while to do that. I haven't really played around with it much on the SSB for auto-tuning.
Can you kind of just in general tell us all the many buttons that are on that radio?
Yeah, let's try it again. Well, it's got. There, see it auto-tuned in.
Yeah, there you go.
Can you hear the audio from the radio okay?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a line of thunderbashers rolling across Ohio.
Okay, well, I'll turn it down a bit. I'm not really sure what all you can see. Just let me move the camera back just a little bit here. I've got it on a little GoPro arm mount thing, just the webcam. Over on the right-hand side here is a group of buttons for the memory and scanning. So, it's got tons of memories. Like you can switch it to memory mode, and it just goes to your memories. And over here on the right, you have the memory channel. I think it's got like 1,200 memories or something. So you can store it and put a text to say what the channel is. And I've got like the time signals I've got stored here. So sometimes what I want to do is find out what the conditions are like. I can go to all these time signals and just switch through them and see what the propagation's like. We're not getting anything up at the high end, but we're getting 5 megahertz. And then this, somewhere down here I've got, these are the aircraft.
Time 11000 Zulu, wind 310.
Can you see that okay?
2 knots.
Yes.
Visibility 15 miles. Sky clear. Temperature -19er. Dew point -24.
So that's the Volmet from Gander, just the normal aviation weather. And that's at 6604, same thing. And 3485. And then these are the North Atlantic air channels for the transatlantic aircraft. Not much action on there right now.
Just a reminder that Scotty also has a YouTube channel, and you can see this on his channel on some of his videos. And he also does some digital decoding of signals. You can see those on his channel. Scotty, tell us your channel ID again, please.
My channel is the Scotty TR6 channel. Probably most of the guys watching this have seen my messages on your videos, but I got a pretty small channel. Just a hobby, not trying to do anything big. Just play around with my radios.
And Scott also has a lot of other radios. Can you just briefly tell us about some of your other radios?
Well, I have quite a large selection of shortwave radios. I've been collecting shortwave radios since the 70s. Got lots of tube ones. I love the big old tube ones. I've got Helicrafters, Skyrider Super Deviant from 1939. That's my oldest shortwave radio. And you know, I've got a whole bunch of Collins. I got a Collins R390, R390A, R391. I've got the big Raycal RA17 sitting right here beside this radio you're looking at. That's a really nice radio for tuning around. I love the Wadley radio because the band switching, there's no contacts. The band switching is done electronically just from a tuning capacitor. So you can, you know, it's not like those old radios where you got those multi-wafer switches and, you know, they end up being a real pain when they get old and crackly and stuff. This Wadley radio, well, it's the same as an FRG7. The FRG7 is based on the same design as the Raycal, where you tune from one band to the next just with a variable capacitor. There's no mechanical switching, so you never end up in the old radios with all the crackly stuff going on.
Okay, we had a question from the chat room of what antenna do you have hooked to this radio right now?
Right now, the antenna I use is an Alpha Delta DX-SWL. It's called a sloper antenna, I think it's called. It's out. It runs from my TV tower out to the back of my garage, and I think it's something like 60 or 70 feet long. I'm not really sure. It's a store-bought antenna, and I only bought it because one day I was in at Radio World looking around to see what was going on, and they had it on sale for half price. And at half price, it was like $60 or something like that, which was a pretty good deal because it's got these coils and all kinds of stuff in it that makes it a quite good wideband shortwave antenna. And it's much better than just a piece of long wire, which I always had before. And so I put that up, and it made quite a difference in the quality of the signal. And I've been using that now for probably about a dozen years. And I'm quite happy with it. Very good.
How high is it at the peak?
The peak, I think it's about almost 20 feet at the peak, and maybe 10 or 11 feet at the back end of the garage.
Have you ever been able to hear a long wave station?
I've never heard any of the commercial broadcast long wave stations like they have in Europe. Over here, there's lots of beacons. Like I can right now go down here on this radio. Oh, I got to put 0.5. There's a I think that might be AM. I'm not really sure. But there's a lot of these long wave, I think they call them non-directional beacons for aviation. Oh, that's the bottom of the frequency band right there. It gets down to 5 kilohertz, and then it goes back up. That's the top frequency the radio will pick up right there. It just loops back around at the bottom. So, and that switches to the other antenna. I think you might be able to see it here. It goes up to antenna 2, which is a discone antenna
Yes, I can see it.
I have up in the attic. And when you switch it back here, it goes to the HF antenna, which is the
Oh.
so yeah, because you can program it to do whatever you want. Whenever band you're in, you can set it up to switch to a certain antenna. It's got a preamp setting that it will remember, and an attenuator setting that it'll remember. And then there's the filters are really cool. You've got 3 selectable memories for the filter. And then up here on the left is the twin passband tuning controls. And I know, can you see this little thing here? This represents the IF
Yes.
here. And I can turn the knob on the left, and I can bring the left side in. And this gives you the shift and the bandwidth here. And then the one on the right. Right. So I think there's a station at 4840. Actually, let's go back to the VFO. Right. So can you hear the audio from the radio?
Yes.
Okay, and that's at a 10K bandwidth. You can switch it down, and that's just a memory. If I modify that and then switch back around, it just remembers what the 3 settings are that you have, so you can just cycle through them. And then there's a button here that just clears it, puts it back to the default. So if you have a station that's interfering on one side or the other, you can just crank that sideband in as far as you need to eliminate the adjacent channel interference. I used to have to use that sometimes in the mornings when Radio Australia was on. Every morning I would listen to Radio Australia on 9580, and I think around 7 a.m. Radio China would come on the Cuban transmitter at 9570 with a really, really strong signal. So I would have to turn this one and eliminate the lower end to eliminate the interference from the adjacent channel, because they had a pretty wide signal coming out of Cuba.
Okay, now what we're really interested in is ICOM is now coming out with the new version of this, and Scotty has one on order. So tell us what you know about the new one.
Well, yeah, the R-8600, I think it's the replacement for the R-8500.
Okay.
Which is kind of the mid-range radio, because up on the top here, let me move the camera up, you can see it's an old episode of Batman here, everything on an angle, but there's the R-75 radio, and that's basically ICOM's low-end shortwave radio. That one I think was about $600.
What's your point?
This one here, the R-75. And it's a really great radio. It's one of my favorite radios. Lots of features, compact. Only difficulty is the speaker is tiny. Like it's like 1.5 inches or something, really tiny speaker. It's pretty much useless. So that's why I have this Hallicrafters speaker plugged into it for listening to. And up on the top there, you can see there's my Heathkit. Let me see, my Heathkit GC1000 clock. I have one of those in the living room as well. That one's set for UTC, and it automatically tunes in WWV and sets itself. That's pretty cool.
So,
but anyways, the ICOM 8600 is, I think, is supposed to be replacing the R-8500, which is their mid-range radio, I think, which is about $2,000. I don't know if it's still available. The R-75 they've discontinued. And the 8500, I'm not sure, but I don't think it's still in production. And the 8600 is coming out, supposed to be the end of the month, and I've got it on order at Radio World. They're telling me it's going to cost around $3,000, or $2,500 to $3,000 for that radio.
And how much did this radio you're showing cost?
This radio here?
Back 10
Yeah,
years
that
ago?
one
Yeah.
cost almost $15,000.
Whoa.
I've never even paid that much for a car. The only vehicle I've ever owned that costs more than that radio is my Harley.
So you're saying that the new radio is going to be kind of between those two radios you just showed, and the cost is going to be kind of in between also.
Cost-wise, yeah. Now, I would imagine that the new radio will have a lot more features than the 8500 for sure. I'm not sure if it'll have everything this one does, but I don't see why not, because the features of this radio are mostly just the computer part of it, the signal processing. Like, it's got tons of amazing signal processing, like this spectrum scope on here. You can do a lot of stuff with it. I have it set so it moves when you tune, and it's got two-speed tuning as well. If you tune slowly, it comes along slowly, but if you speed up, it accelerates. I don't know if you can see that, but it accelerates. So if you turn the knob fast, it ups the rate that it's going. So you can be in the 5 megahertz band, and let's say you want to go up to 6 megahertz. Well, you just do this, and boom, you're up into 6 megahertz really quickly. I love playing with the auto tune, because that.
So the newer one is going to be smaller.
Oh yeah, going to be way smaller than this. Excuse me. I imagine it'll be, maybe around the size of an FRG7 physically, because from the pictures I've seen, it looks like it's like a very similar to the size of the R75, except maybe taller.
Okay. So since you have both of them there, so you're saying it's going to be about the size as the 75, which you have above this radio.
Right.
Probably why the screen is going to be smaller.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is, the R9500 is not a touchscreen. So all of the controls are on here. I'll move the camera back here maybe a little bit. You can see I'm limited with the length of this mount that it's on. But yeah, all the controls are, although there is the menu on the screen, so these roll buttons along the bottom and the side change depending on, like, I can change this menu here and bring up the set menu, and you can, all kinds of settings, colors, and just about everything you can think of is settable on this radio. And you can do just about anything, and you've got all the modes: FM, wide FM, so that's like narrow FM, wide FM, AM, and then sideband. Actually, with AM, you press it again, it goes to synchronous detection, and then you can hold it, and it will go to synchronous detection for just the upper sideband, or just the lower sideband, or both. So, depending on whether you've got adjacent channel interference, you can eliminate it quite effectively. This radio is really amazing when the conditions are bad. Like, when the conditions are good and the signals are strong, just about any radio will do. You can use one of the little handheld portables and, get a pretty nice audio and a signal from a good, strong station. But when the conditions are poor and signals are weak and there's lots of interference, this radio, amazing. It's got noise reduction, which is variable. Now, this is not a noisy signal, but let's see, this one might be, it's a little bit weaker. Yeah, 6070. This is CFRX. I'm only about 20 kilometers away from the transmitter, but I think it's only a 1 kilowatt or station or something. It's not very strong, and it just simulcasts the local AM station 1010 CFRB. But since I'm so close, I can hardly pick it up because the signal, I guess, is going over top of me. But you've got this noise reduction that you can turn. I'm not sure how well that comes through on the audio there. And you can eliminate quite a lot of the noise. You know, you can see when you turn it off, you can see the difference in the noise. And you can switch the filter as well. When conditions are good, I usually leave the bandwidth wide at 10K because you get pretty nice audio out of the radio. This radio has a small speaker. It looks like maybe only 3 inches, but it's really good. There's got to be an acoustic cavity in there and really high quality amp because the sound is excellent.
Okay, one of the questions from the chat room is, are you expecting the new radio to have the equivalent or better features than this one?
I expect it should be at least equivalent electronically, the computer part of it, right? Because it, you know, all these digital signal processing, if anything, some of that stuff might even be better because it'll be 10 years newer design than this. This is a design from 2006, this radio. So, you know, 10 years advancement in the software, I would imagine it's going to have, you know, at least as good, if not better, digital signal processing and all that aspect within the radio. Now, this one here has the RF front end on it is exceptional. And, you know, that's one of the reasons it costs so much is because the hardware is so high end. I don't know if the R8600 will have anywhere near as good of a front end as this, but probably very close considering it's 10 years advanced, you know. But I think the features of it will probably be more than this, more programmability, more customizable, more colorful screen. I mean, the screen on this isn't very colorful. I mean, you can turn it, you can set it off so there's a black background, but it just doesn't look as pleasing to me as it does with the blue background. But you don't get very much color except for the meter, the signal level meter there. Or I think you can press this button here and it'll show you oh, okay, yeah. So it changes the menu over here, and so press the peak button here, and it'll show you which signal here has the highest peak in the spectrum. And then so I think we can go to it. Somehow I can't remember how you work this. I've never used this feature very much because I just tune around to it, but
so when are you expecting the new one?
Radio World says it should be in by the end of the month.
Okay.
I was talking to them at a Hamfest on Saturday, local Hamfest. The guys from Radio World were there. They're expecting it by the end of the month, but you know they don't know until it gets there.
Yeah, because it has to be. Has it been certified in other?
I don't know. There's a question about that in the States.
Yeah,
I know in the States, this radio, if you bought it in the States, it's got gaps because of the law there. You can't tune in the analog cell phone bands, which don't exist really anymore, so that's kind of silly. But this radio in Canada, it's completely unblocked. And I'm pretty sure that the other one will be the same because it's just a matter of computer programming in the radio, so they can set it however they want.
Okay, well, we're looking forward to you receiving that radio, and the plan is when Scott gets his new radio and has learned all the many features it has, we're going to try to do another hangout. And the beauty here, Scott, the beauty will be that you can do a direct comparison of these two radios.
Yeah, that's one of my plans when I get it. I want to see just, you know, when the conditions are bad, because I have them just hooked up. These radios are just hooked up in parallel on the antenna. I did a lot of experimenting with the radios when I put the new antenna up. I used to just switch from one radio to the next, the antenna, and only had one radio hooked up. And so I did some playing around, and I just run them in parallel. I have a little T connector with the BNC, and I did some experimenting with just one radio and with both radios, and it made no difference to the quality of the signal, because these modern radios, they don't leak anything out of the antenna, so they're not interfering with each other.
Oh,
Now I did notice though, I have an old Radio Shack DX302, and it's another radio like the Raycal and the FRG7. It's a Wadley loop radio with that front end pre-selector. And I did notice that radio, when you tune the front end pre-selector, it affects the signals on the other radios. It will cause a loading effect on the antenna.
oh,
So you can, yeah. So that's the only radio I've seen that does that. The FRG7 doesn't do that. The Raycal doesn't do that. But that Radio Shack one, it does. When you tune the pre-selector, it affects it'll null out the signal on the other radios.
yeah. I just got a comment in the chat room that Universal Radio, which is a store in the United States, says that the FCC approval has not been received yet as of this morning. So you may be getting the new radio way before the rest of us can even try.
I'm not sure about, in Canada, the agency is called the CRTC, the Canadian Radio Television, CRTC, Canadian Radio Television Communications Commission, or something like that. And I'm not really sure just what aspect they have to approve on these things, because basically any device that's sold here usually has a sticker on it just saying that it won't emit any more than the allowed emissions, and it also has to, you have to accept that it will deal with any interference that's coming from outside. So you can't complain that this radio you bought is getting interfered with, because the sticker says, that's your problem.
Right. Okay, thank you very much, Scott. And I'm looking forward to doing more Hangouts with you now that we've relearned how to do it. And looking forward to your new radio.
Yeah,
so
I'm looking forward to it too.
Thank you very much. And thanks everybody for watching. And hopefully YouTube won't clobber this recording and it'll be available.
Yeah, that was a couple years ago, wasn't it? And we did that.
Yeah.
And it protested for like 2 days or something before it disappeared.
Yeah, it had like 87 views. And then all of a sudden, when I went back to it, it says in processing. And it never came out of that processing cycle.
It was like when Chuck Norris got bit by that cobra, and after 3 days of excruciating pain, the cobra died.
Yeah, and that has to be the best video I've ever done with you two, and it got lost by YouTube. So hopefully this one works, and hopefully we can do some more.
Well, hopefully, yeah. I'll give you a shout when the new radio comes in. I'm going to do an unboxing video.
Okay.
Because that'll be exciting.
All right, I'll put the link to your channel in the description of this show.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Talk to you
Okay,
soon.
bye-bye. Thanks, everybody, for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please give me a thumbs up. Bye-bye.